Japanese billionaire was ignored by everyone until the black waitress spoke fluent Japanese. The grand dining hall buzzed with the clinking of crystal glasses and the low hum of polite conversations, but amidst the opulence, one figure seemed invisible. Kazuo Takahashi, a billionaire whose empire spanned continents, stood quietly in the corner, his presence almost ghostly. The guests were celebrities, politicians, and influencers, yet not a single person acknowledged him. Whispers fluttered across the marble floor, rumors of his eccentricity, his stoic silence, his supposed irrelevance in the glamorous world that adored spectacle over substance. Kazuo's gaze was calm, almost piercing, scanning the crowd with an intensity that made it clear he was taking everything in. But as usual, nobody noticed. Nobody except one person. Her name was Amara Johnson, a young black waitress with a presence that radiated quiet confidence. She had worked in high-end restaurants before, but tonight, something about this event was different. As she carried a tray of delicate appetizers, she caught sight of Kazuo standing alone, a subtle frown on his otherwise serene face. Her heart stirred. There was something human beneath his cold exterior, a loneliness that mirrored her own struggles navigating a world that often ignored her brilliance. Then the moment came. Kazuo tried to order, his voice a soft murmur in Japanese, barely audible over the chatter. The other waiters froze, exchanging awkward glances. Not one of them understood. The room seemed to shrink, the hum of polite conversation turning into a deafening silence. And that's when Amara stepped forward. "Suma Mason," she said with perfect pronunciation, bowing slightly. "Kono risuder no menu and itsut go shitsuman aramasa ka?" Her words flowed naturally, catching even Kazuo off guard. Every head turned. The room paused. A black waitress, speaking flawless Japanese in the heart of Tokyo's most elite dining hall. Kazuo's eyes widened, and for the first time that evening, he smiled. It was subtle but unmistakable, a smile of recognition, of relief, of hope. Nobody else mattered anymore. The hum of chatter in the dining hall felt distant to Amara as she approached Kazuo. Every step she took seemed magnified, echoing in her mind like a drumbeat of destiny. She had served countless customers, some demanding, some rude, some dismissive, but there was something different about him. Kazuo wasn't just another wealthy man lost in his own arrogance. He was alone, invisible, ignored. And somehow, that loneliness mirrored the quiet battles she fought daily, unseen by those who assumed her presence was ordinary. "Excuse me, sir," she began, her voice calm yet deliberate. "I heard your question." She gestured subtly to the menu in his hands, noticing the hesitation in his fingers. "I can help you." Kazuo turned slowly, his eyes meeting hers. There was a flicker of disbelief there, as if he had forgotten how it felt to be acknowledged. "Ah, you understand Japanese." His voice was soft, carrying a tone of caution. "Yes," Amara replied with a small, respectful bow. "I studied it for several years, and I love speaking it." Her smile was gentle, but her heart raced in a way it hadn't in years. She was stepping into a world she had always observed from the periphery, and suddenly, she was at the center of someone's attention. Kazuo's lips curved into the faintest smile, almost imperceptible, but to Amara, it felt monumental. Nobody seems to notice me here," he said quietly, almost to himself. His accent was perfect, every word carefully measured, carrying the weight of a man who had built empires but felt unseen in the simplest moments. Amara's heart ached at the honesty in his voice. "You are noticed," she said firmly, placing the menu gently on the table. "You are more important than you think. But maybe they don't see the real you because they are too busy chasing appearances." Kazuo studied her, eyes narrowing slightly, not in suspicion, but in curiosity. You speak like this to anyone?" he asked, tilting his head. Amara laughed softly, a sound that seemed to illuminate the space around them. "No," she admitted, "but I have learned that sometimes the right words can make someone feel understood. And I could tell, you need that." For a long moment, Kazuo said nothing. He didn't glance at the other waiters, didn't shift uneasily as the other guests sneered or whispered behind their hands. He simply studied her, as though trying to determine if she was real or some illusion conjured by his imagination. Finally, he said, "You are unlike anyone I have met in this room." Amara felt a warmth spreading across her chest. "I could say the same about you," she replied. Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled slightly as she placed the tray on the table. She had never been in a position like this before, to serve someone who didn't just want food, but attention, recognition, understanding. The silence between them was comfortable, almost sacred, as Kazuo chose a dish and asked a few more questions in Japanese. Amara answered each one with ease, translating subtle nuances for him, suggesting flavors, adjustments, and combinations. Other waiters watched in astonishment, some whispering, some shaking their heads. But Amara paid no attention. She was focused entirely on Kazuo, the way his hands lingered over the menu, the way his eyes softened when she laughed, the way he seemed to lean slightly closer with each word exchanged. "Why do you speak my language so well?" Kazuo asked finally, leaning back in his chair. There was genuine curiosity in his tone, not the superficial politeness he often received from business partners or socialites. "I grew up learning to fight for my voice," Amara said softly. "In a world where people often underestimate you, you learned that speaking another language isn't just about words. It's about connecting with someone who might feel invisible. You reminded me of that." Kazuo's expression softened further. I have never had anyone speak to me like this," he admitted. "Not at a party, not at a business meeting, not ever." Amara's lips curved into a reassuring smile. "Then let this be the first time, Mr. Takahashi." She used his family name with respect, yet with a warmth that surprised even herself. He chuckled softly, a sound rare and private, and it filled the corner of the hall where they stood. For a fleeting moment, the crowd around them faded into insignificance. In a world obsessed with status and appearances, here were two people, one a billionaire, the other a waitress, finding a connection that required nothing but understanding and courage. And in that moment, Amara realized something important. This encounter was not just about him. It was about her courage to step forward, to break the boundaries of expectation, and to be heard in a world that often ignored voices like hers. Kazuo's eyes met hers again. Perhaps you were meant to find me tonight," he said quietly. Amara nodded, her heart swelling with a strange, unexplainable hope. "Perhaps," she agreed. And neither of them noticed that everyone else had stopped talking, staring in awe, as if the room itself held its breath. After their initial exchange, Amara found herself drawn into a rhythm with Kazuo that felt unusual in a world built on pretense. As she refilled his glass of water, he spoke softly, asking questions that went beyond mere menu items. He wanted to know about her life, her passions, the story behind her fluency in Japanese. Every word he spoke carried genuine curiosity, a rarity in a world that often treated people as disposable pawns. "I've always loved languages," Amara began, pouring the water carefully. "Japanese, French, even a bit of Mandarin. There's something about speaking another person's language that makes you feel closer to them, makes them feel seen. And I could tell you we're not being seen tonight." Kazuo's lips curved in a small, appreciative smile. Most people ignore what they do not understand. They see wealth, success, the image, but they rarely see the person behind it. You see me." "Why?" His tone was gentle, vulnerable, a quiet honesty that startled her. Amara met his gaze, unflinching. "Because I know what it's like to be ignored, even when you're trying your hardest. And sometimes a simple acknowledgement, someone speaking your language, literally or figuratively, can make a world of difference." Kazuo leaned back slightly, considering her words. "You understand more than you realize," he said quietly. "I have advisors, employees, even friends who look at me and see only what I control, what I own. You see something deeper." Amara's chest tightened. She had always believed that empathy was rare, but to hear it acknowledged by a man whose entire life was a testament to power and wealth left her momentarily breathless. "Everyone has a story," she said softly. "Even billionaires. Even people who seem untouchable. I want to hear yours if you'll let me." Kazuo's eyes softened further. "It's not a story I often share," he admitted. "I built my company from nothing, yes. But the people I wanted to trust, they were always more interested in what I had than who I was. It's lonely, in ways I didn't expect." Amara nodded sympathetically. "Loneliness, it's heavier when the world treats you like an object, rather than a human being. I know that feeling too well. But maybe tonight it's different. Maybe you're meant to be understood, not just noticed." He gave her a faint smile, the first one that seemed fully genuine, without the caution of guardedness. "Perhaps you are right," he said quietly. "Perhaps I needed someone like you to appear, someone who sees me without expecting anything in return." For a moment they were silent, the kind of silence that doesn't need words. The bustling hall around them continued, yet it faded into insignificance. Amara felt a strange warmth, a connection she hadn't anticipated, growing stronger with each passing second. She realized that this interaction wasn't just about language, it was about trust, acknowledgement, and the rare courage to be seen for who you truly are. "I have a confession," Amara said after a pause, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "I was nervous about speaking Japanese tonight. I didn't know if I'd be able to help, or if it would sound awkward, or if you'd even notice me at all." Kazuo chuckled softly, the sound rich and sincere. "You need not worry," he said. "Not only did I notice you, but I feel understood. That is more than anyone has done in a long time." Amara felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. It means a lot to hear you say that. Sometimes it feels like the world only notices mistakes or appearances. But you've reminded me that connection matters more than wealth or status." Kazuo studied her intently, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then he said softly, "You have a rare gift, Amara. Not just the language, but the ability to reach people in ways they never expect. You have reminded me that even in a world filled with people who see only what is convenient, someone can still see the truth." Amara's heart swelled at the sincerity in his voice. "And you remind me that even the most powerful people can be human," she replied. "That beneath the public image, there is a person who needs someone to listen, someone to acknowledge them." He nodded slowly. You listen without judgment, without expectation. That is extraordinary." Amara smiled, sensing a rare, fragile trust forming between them. For the first time, Kazuo didn't feel like a billionaire surrounded by shallow admirers. He felt like a man who could breathe freely, who could share a moment of genuine connection without pretense or obligation. As she adjusted his chair slightly and handed him a small plate of appetizers, Kazuo's eyes lingered on hers. "Perhaps this encounter is more significant than either of us realizes," he said quietly. Amara met his gaze, her own eyes bright with unspoken understanding. "I believe it is," she replied. And in that moment, neither of them noticed the astonished whispers of the other guests, nor the subtle glances of the staff. For Kazuo and Amara, the rest of the world simply didn't exist. The connection they had forged in those few short minutes was fragile, yet undeniable, a bridge across status, language, and expectation. And as the evening wore on, it became clear that what had started as a simple act of understanding might grow into something far more transformative than either of them had anticipated. Just as the quiet connection between Amara and Kazuo seemed to solidify, the atmosphere in the dining hall shifted. A sharp, dismissive laugh cut through the soft music, drawing both of their gazes toward the source. A group of high-profile guests, wealthy socialites and business moguls, had noticed Kazuo speaking with Amara. Their expressions were a mixture of disbelief, condescension, and thinly veiled annoyance. Well, one woman sneered, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I didn't expect you to be alone in this corner, Kazuo. And who is this?" Her gaze swept over Amara in a way that made the young waitress's pulse quicken, not with fear, but with the familiar weight of scrutiny. Amara straightened, keeping her composure despite the sudden tension. She had faced judgment before, but nothing quite like this. A room full of people who assumed their status automatically made them superior. Kazuo, however, didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at her, a subtle reassurance in his eyes. "This is Amara Johnson," he said evenly, his voice calm but commanding. "She's helping me with my order." The socialites exchanged whispers, their expressions sharp, like predators circling an unexpected prey. "Helping you?" one of them asked incredulously. "Do you even know who she is?" "She's a waitress. Surely someone at your level would prefer proper service." Amara felt a flash of defensiveness rise in her chest, but she kept her tone polite. "I assure you, ma'am, Mr. Takahashi's orders are my priority tonight, and I am capable of handling them professionally." The laughter that followed was harsh, mocking. "Professional," another guest scoffed. "Fluent Japanese or not, she's still just a waitress. Do you really expect us to believe she belongs in the same conversation as him?" Kazuo's gaze hardened slightly, a subtle shift that Amara recognized as the spark of determination she had glimpsed earlier. He placed a hand lightly on hers, not as a possession, but as a gesture of solidarity. "Amara speaks Japanese perfectly. She is competent, intelligent, and I trust her judgment. That is enough." The socialites blinked, caught off guard by the billionaire's unwavering support. But they weren't ready to back down. "Kazuo, surely you don't mean to humiliate us in your own party by openly praising her," one of them hissed. Amara's pulse raced, but she refused to be intimidated. "I am not here to humiliate anyone," she said, her voice firm but respectful. "I am here to do my job. Mr. Takahashi's confidence in me is enough." For a moment, the room seemed frozen. The other staff members shuffled nervously, unsure how to react, while guests began murmuring, casting sideways glances. It was clear, Amara and Kazuo had disrupted the carefully curated social order. Then, as if on cue, the challenge escalated. One of the socialites, a sharply dressed woman with a clipboard, stepped forward. "Actually, Kazuo," she said with an air of authority, "there's a problem with your order. The chef says she cannot accommodate your preferences. Perhaps someone else should handle this." Amara's heart clenched. She had anticipated obstacles, but this felt like a direct attack, a test of her skill, her composure, and her ability to stand firm. She straightened her shoulders and met Kazuo's gaze. "I can handle this," she said quietly, almost to herself, but Kazuo nodded encouragingly. "Please let me speak to the chef. I will explain the order." With careful steps, Amara approached the kitchen, and Kazuo followed silently, offering support without words. Inside, the chef was busy, moving with precision, yet he paused when he saw her. "Amara, you cannot make this dish exactly as he wants. The ingredients—" "I understand," she interrupted politely, "but I also understand exactly what he wants. Please trust me to guide you. We can adjust the preparation to match the flavor profile and presentation he prefers." The chef hesitated, skepticism clear in his eyes. "It's not usually done this way." "Perhaps it's time to try something unusual," she replied, her voice steady, infused with quiet authority. "Trust me, it will work." Back in the dining hall, Kazuo watched the scene unfold from the edge of the kitchen door. He felt a surge of admiration. Here was someone who didn't just serve him. She defended his wishes, confronted obstacles, and held her ground with unwavering confidence. He had seen competence before, but rarely with such poise, courage, and integrity. Moments later, Amara returned with the completed dish, perfectly arranged, flavors balanced, and presentation immaculate. The socialites gasped, some even pale with surprise. I don't understand," one of them muttered. "How is this?" Kazuo's eyes met Amara's, filled with gratitude and something deeper, respect, admiration, and a growing trust. "Remarkable," he said simply. "Exactly what I asked for." Amara smiled, a mix of relief and pride washing over her. "Thank you for trusting me," she replied softly. The socialites looked at each other, realization dawning. For all their wealth, status, and influence, they had underestimated a young black waitress. And in doing so, they had revealed their own insecurities. Kazuo's calm, measured voice cut through the murmurs. Competence is not measured by title, appearance, or background. Tonight, Amara has reminded us all of that truth. A hush fell over the room. Amara's heart pounded, not with fear this time, but with a sense of triumph. She had faced the unexpected challenge, and together with Kazuo's quiet support, she had proven that courage, skill, and integrity transcended social barriers. As she returned to her duties, Kazuo followed closely. "You handled that brilliantly," he said quietly, almost like a personal confession. "Most would have faltered under that pressure. Not you." Amara's smile was warm but humble. "I only did what was right. That's all." But deep down, she knew this encounter had changed everything. Not just for Kazuo, but for her as well. The evening had settled into a quiet rhythm, the earlier tension dissipating like mist in the morning sun. Amara moved gracefully between tables, her poise now heightened by the subtle acknowledgement she had earned. Kazuo remained nearby, a silent sentinel, his gaze soft but watchful. Yet beneath the calm surface, an unspoken question lingered. Why had Kazuo chosen to remain unseen by everyone else, and why did he seem so guarded even now? It was as they returned to the corner of the hall, away from the prying eyes of the socialites, that Kazuo finally spoke, his tone quieter, almost hesitant. "Amara, there is something I have not told anyone tonight," he began, his fingers tracing the edge of his glass. "A truth about why I appear detached, why people seem distant. I suppose I never imagined anyone would see beyond it." Amara paused, sensing the gravity in his voice. "You can tell me," she said softly, placing a hand lightly on the table. "I promise I will listen." Kazuo exhaled a slow, measured breath that seemed to carry years of solitude. "I am not like the people you see here," he said, gesturing vaguely at the glittering crowd. "I inherited wealth, yes, but it came at a cost. My family, those I trusted the most, valued only the empire, not the person. I became a figure, a symbol, and in the process, I lost touch with genuine human connection. Even in the boardroom, even at events like this, I am often invisible, ignored, or dismissed. And I became accustomed to it. Amara's heart tightened. She had sensed the loneliness in him from the very first moment, but hearing the confession crystallized everything. "You were unseen, even when surrounded by people," she whispered. "That must have been unbearable." Kazuo's eyes met hers, glimmering with vulnerability. "It was. And yet I learned to hide it, to smile politely, to perform the role expected of me. But tonight you spoke my language, literally and figuratively. You recognized me, not as a billionaire, not as a figure in a suit, but as a human being. That matters more than words can express." Amara swallowed, feeling an unexpected wave of emotion. I never thought I could make that kind of difference," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I just wanted to help, to do my job well. But if I've made you feel seen, that means more to me than you can imagine." Kazuo's lips curved into the faintest smile, tinged with both gratitude and something deeper, relief, perhaps even hope. "You have no idea how rare that is," he said softly. "I have met countless people, countless assistants, advisors, even friends, who assumed my life was perfect, that I had everything, and yet they never truly saw me. You saw me." Amara felt warmth spread through her chest. For years, she had worked tirelessly, often overlooked, underestimated, yet now, her voice and presence had pierced the armor of a man who had seemed untouchable. It was an affirmation not just of her skill, but of the humanity she had always strived to maintain. There was a pause, a quiet stillness in which the world outside the corner of the dining hall seemed to vanish. Then Kazuo leaned slightly forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "There is more," he confessed, "something I have been hiding even from my closest associates. My health is not perfect. I have been diagnosed with a condition that requires constant attention. I feared revealing it would make me vulnerable, a liability, in the eyes of my business world. Yet you make me feel safe enough to admit." Amara's eyes widened, her fingers brushing his hand lightly. "Kazuo, He raised a hand gently, stopping her. "Do not misunderstand," he said. "I am not asking for pity. But for the first time in years, I feel that someone might understand me fully, beyond my wealth, my title, my reputation. And that is more than I ever imagined possible." Tears pricked at Amara's eyes, unbidden. "You've been carrying that alone," she said softly. "No wonder you seem distant. But I want you to know, you are not alone anymore. Not while I am here." Kazuo's gaze softened, almost vulnerably, as he said, Perhaps this is why fate brought you to me tonight. I have spent my life surrounded by people who see what I own, but not who I am. You see me in a way that no one else has. And I cannot describe how much that means." Amara's heart swelled. This was no longer about a simple encounter between a billionaire and a waitress. It was a moment of true human recognition, rare and transformative. "Then let me continue to be here," she said quietly, "not just tonight, but whenever you need someone who sees you for who you really are." A faint smile broke across Kazuo's face, a mixture of relief and gratitude that touched him deeply. "I would like that very much," he admitted. "Very much indeed." The dining hall continued its chatter, oblivious to the quiet intimacy unfolding in that corner. But for Amara and Kazuo, everything had shifted. In the midst of wealth, judgment, and expectation, a genuine connection had been forged, one that promised understanding, trust, and perhaps even something deeper. And as they shared that quiet, profound moment, both of them realized that this revelation, Kazuo's vulnerability, Amara's courage, would change the course of their lives forever. The next morning, the air in the dining hall felt charged in a way Amara hadn't expected. Word of her exchange with Kazuo had spread like wildfire among the staff, and even some of the high-profile guests who lingered from a previous evening. Some were impressed, others envious, and a few openly skeptical. But Amara's focus remained on Kazuo, who had requested a private breakfast meeting, an unusual request for someone of his status. "Amara," Kazuo began as she approached the table, his expression serious, almost somber. "I need your help today. There is a meeting, a negotiation, actually, that cannot fail. It's important, and I trust you can handle something unusual." Amara felt her pulse quicken. The stakes were higher than anything she had faced so far. "Of course, Mr. Takahashi," she said, keeping her tone steady. "What do you need me to do?" Kazuo leaned forward, lowering his voice. "This is delicate. My competitors have set traps, trying to manipulate the situation to their advantage. They've assumed I am focused only on financial matters, unaware that I rely on other skills, intuition, understanding, and someone who can read between the lines. That's where you come in. Amara's mind raced. Negotiation and business manipulation were far from her usual responsibilities as a waitress. Yet, she remembered the confidence he had shown in her the night before, the trust he had placed in her. And something inside her stirred, a mixture of courage, curiosity, and determination. "Tell me everything," she said, sitting down across from him. Kazuo outlined the scenario. A group of international investors would arrive soon, speaking only in Japanese. They were shrewd, accustomed to exploiting any perceived weakness, and would likely test him, not with numbers, but with subtle insinuations and veiled threats. "I need someone who can not only translate language, but intentions," he said. "Someone who can read the nuances and signal to me when something is off." Amara felt a flicker of anxiety, but it was tempered by resolve. She nodded. "I understand. I'll do it." Hours later, the investors arrived, impeccably dressed and radiating confidence. They greeted Kazuo politely, their smiles sharp, their eyes measuring. Amara stood beside him, maintaining a calm demeanor, her ears attuned to every word, every inflection. As the meeting progressed, the investors began testing Kazuo. One made a seemingly casual comment about a recent market decision, implying negligence on his part. Another questioned his management style, subtly planting doubt about his judgment. Amara noticed every micro-expression, every subtle hesitation, and leaned slightly toward Kazuo, whispering the truth in Japanese. "They are testing your reaction. Do not respond defensively. They want to see weakness." Kazuo's eyes met hers briefly, a flash of relief passing through them. He nodded imperceptibly, using her guidance to navigate the subtle traps. Another investor raised a question about a contract clause, deliberately phrased ambiguously. Amara's quick translation and clarification helped Kazuo counter the misdirection gracefully, diffusing tension without exposing vulnerability. Midway through, one of the investors tried a more direct challenge, questioning the ethics of a recent business acquisition, insinuating that Kazuo had acted dishonorably. Amara's pulse raced. The room seemed to grow heavier, the stakes tangible. She leaned in again, whispering, "He wants to provoke an emotional reaction. Stay calm, speak the facts, and let your integrity show. They will respect it." Kazuo exhaled, then spoke in measured tones, responding with precision and honesty. The room fell silent. The investors, sensing that their usual tactics were ineffective, exchanged uneasy glances. Amara's presence had become an invisible shield, a guiding hand ensuring Kazuo maintained control and dignity. By the end of the meeting, what had begun as a tense, high-stakes confrontation concluded with surprising success. The investors, initially poised to exploit him, left with admiration, acknowledging the brilliance and integrity Kazuo had demonstrated, thanks in no small part to Amara's subtle guidance. As the door closed behind the last guest, Kazuo leaned back in his chair, visibly relieved. He looked at Amara, his gaze filled with gratitude and awe. "I cannot believe how smoothly you navigated that," he said quietly. "Most people would have been overwhelmed, hesitant, but you—" He stopped, searching for words, then smiled. "You were remarkable." Amara felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "I just did what I could," she said, her voice soft, almost in disbelief at her own performance. "You trusted me. That made all the difference." Kazuo shook his head, still looking at her with deep admiration. "It was more than trust. You understood the unspoken. You saw the intentions behind the words and guided me through them. I cannot thank you enough." Amara smiled, a genuine warmth filling her chest. She realized in that moment that their connection had been tested and proven stronger than she had imagined. It was no longer a simple encounter. It was a partnership, one forged through courage, skill, and mutual respect. And as Kazuo stood, offering his hand in a gesture that was both formal and personal, Amara knew that this test had changed everything. She had proven not only her competence, but her value, her courage, and her ability to see and be seen in a world that too often ignored those who deserved acknowledgement. The day had started like any other, yet something in the air felt electric, charged with anticipation. Amara had returned home briefly after the intense negotiation, her mind still buzzing from a morning's success. She had proven herself, yes, but she hadn't expected what happened next. As she stepped into her small apartment, her phone vibrated incessantly. Multiple missed calls, messages, and notifications flooded her screen. Curiosity mixed with concern as she quickly swiped through them. One message in particular caught her eye, from Kazuo's assistant with an urgent tone. A helicopter will land at your residence in 30 minutes. Kazuo insists. Please do not ignore. Amara's heart skipped a beat. A helicopter? At her modest apartment in a city known for its busy streets? She wondered if this was some mistake, a joke, or impossibly true. Her mind raced with questions, but deep down, she felt the same quiet trust she had felt in the dining hall. If Kazuo insisted, she would follow. 30 minutes later, the whirring sound of rotor blades filled the sky. Peering through her window, Amara saw a sleek black helicopter descending into the small yard outside. Her neighbors gawked, pointing and murmuring, but she barely noticed. Her pulse quickened, adrenaline mingling with disbelief. She rushed outside as the helicopter landed gracefully, the door sliding open to reveal Kazuo himself, standing in the doorway with a calm, yet unmistakably serious expression. "Amara," he called as he stepped onto the ground, "thank you for trusting me today. I need you to come with me immediately. It's important." Amara froze for a second, her mind spinning. Important? What could possibly be so urgent? And yet, she didn't hesitate. She grabbed her bag and followed him, her heart pounding with curiosity and a strange sense of destiny. Once inside, Kazuo explained as the helicopter lifted off, the city shrinking beneath them. "Amara, I've been hiding something, not just from others, but from myself. My life, my health, my responsibilities, it's all intertwined with more than business. There are people depending on me in ways even my closest associates don't understand. And today, I need someone I can trust implicitly." Amara listened, her stomach twisting with suspense. "What is it?" she asked softly, gripping the edge of her seat. Kazuo took a deep breath. "My company is not just a corporation. It funds initiatives that help underserved communities, education, healthcare, and more. But there is a project, one that is personal. My late mother always dreamed of a scholarship program to help talented students from disadvantaged backgrounds study abroad. It's never been implemented until now. I need your help to ensure it succeeds." Amara's eyes widened. A scholarship program? And he trusted her, someone who had been a stranger, less than 48 hours ago, with something so significant? "Kazuo." She stopped herself, overwhelmed by a mixture of disbelief, pride, and gratitude. "I need someone who sees beyond titles, who understands potential without bias," Kazuo said, his gaze steady, sincere. "You have shown me that. You speak for those who are unseen. And now, I need your guidance to reach the students who deserve this chance." Amara's breath caught. Tears threatened, but she blinked them away, fighting to remain composed. "Kazuo, I can't believe you trust me like this. But I will do it. I'll help you make it happen." He smiled, a full, genuine smile, radiating warmth and relief. "Thank you, Amara. You've already changed my world. Now, we'll change theirs together." The helicopter descended toward a private helipad outside the corporate campus. As they landed, the gravity of the situation hit her. This was no longer about a simple encounter in a dining hall. This was about purpose, vision, and partnership, an opportunity to make a lasting impact. And then the twist. As they stepped off the helicopter, a crowd gathered, reporters, staff, and students who had been quietly selected for the scholarship. Among them, Amara noticed several young black students, their faces bright with hope. One of them stepped forward, clutching a notebook, eyes wide. You spoke Japanese at the gala," the student said timidly. "And you helped Mr. Takahashi?" I want to be like you someday." Amara's chest tightened. She realized in that instant that her actions, her courage, her skill, her voice, had inspired more than one person. She wasn't just recognized herself. She had become a beacon for others, proof that being seen, being heard, and using your gifts could change lives. Kazuo placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Amara," he said softly, "your bravery, your integrity, it has not only changed my world, but it will change countless others. And for that, I am forever grateful." Amara smiled through tears, her heart swelling. "Thank you, Kazuo. I never imagined I could make such a difference." He shook his head, eyes gleaming. "You don't imagine it, you lived it. And now, together, we will give others the same chance." As the sun set behind the corporate campus, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Amara realized something profound. She had gone from being a waitress in a crowded dining hall to a trusted partner in a billionaire's vision for change. Her courage, her voice, and her heart had been recognized, and that recognition had created a ripple far beyond her wildest dreams. For Kazuo, the invisible man ignored by the world, and Amara, the young black woman who had spoken the language of connection, the moment was transformative. They had found not only trust and purpose, but also friendship, respect, and a shared mission that would endure far longer than any gala or negotiation. And in that moment, both knew the truth. Sometimes all it takes is one person to see you, and when that happens, the world can change.